His commitment to his nation and its people was never in question. If anybody asked me if there was a soul that embodied the very essence of patriotism, loyalty, and sacrifice, I'd say it was him. But how did a man who had guided his country through its darkest storms meet such a violent fate? The country had seen far worse in the past. So, why him? What was it about his rule that led to such a shocking and blood-stained betrayal? The Atinike Isla was one of the most politically powerful families in the Maldives during the 19th century and the 20th century. Their name carried weight. Their influence stretched far. Mohamed Ameen Didi was the only son of Ahmad Didi. He was also the grandson of Atirike Ibrahim Dushman Akilagifan. So from the very start, it was very clear that this boy was different. At the young age of 9, Amin Didi left his home and went to Ceylon to study. His mind was sharp. He always topped his class, excelled in everything he put his heart into. People would always describe him as Amin Didi the scholar, Amin Didi the athlete, Amin Didi the writer, Amin Didi the actor, Amin Didi the multitasker. When Amin Didi returned to Male, he was ready to begin a new chapter of his life. He had met her in Colombo. One single glimpse had changed everything in his heart. Fatmat Said, the daughter of Bagichage Hussein Salahuddin. She was graceful, kind, and everything he had ever dreamed of. When he returned to Male, Amin Didi would visit her father under the excuse of learning the way. He sat before the great Hussein Salahuddin, absorbing knowledge, but his eyes always searched for her. And Fatmat Said? She had little choice. Amin Didi was so charming, he was so intelligent, his words, the way he carried himself. Amin Didi was a man of brilliance. He held multiple positions at once, something which was unheard of in the Maldives back then. To name a few, Amin Didi was the chief officer of customs, the head of Maldivian post office, and the minister of trade, all at the same time. Amin Didi, the multitasker indeed. He was also a member of the first Maldivian parliament. Amin Didi also founded our very first political party, the Deteriorating Mutakaddim Party, also known as the People's Progress Party. The death of Sultan Abdul Majid Didi and the mysterious disappearance of his son Prince Hassan Farid Didi left the country without a ruler. The parliament had turned to Amin Didi, the man who had already proven himself in every possible way. They believed that he was the only one fit to take the crown and the throne. But Amin Didi refused. He said that the Maldives needed change, not another sultan. And so a referendum was held and the people spoke. The 812-year-old sultanate was abolished, and on the 1st of January 1953, with 100% support of the people, the Maldives became a republic. And leading this new era stood Mohamed Ameen Didi, the first president of the Maldives. A new dawn had begun. The first few months of Amin Didi's presidency were pretty smooth, but there were a few bumps along the way, naturally. One of the biggest was when he banned tobacco, something a lot of people weren't happy about. But since Maldivians were used to the Sultan's word being final, no one really spoke up against the president's decision, even if they didn't like it. But how long would that last for? It was the 20th of August 1953. It was a Thursday night. almost at the edge of Friday morning. In a dimly lit room in Mafanunuranige, about 10 people gathered. It looked like a simple prayer meeting, but something about it felt different. The elite of Mali were there too, and this wasn't the first time this had happened. They'd been meeting like this for a while now, in the dark, with nothing but handheld lights flickering around them. Then came the morning of Friday, 21st August 1953, the day after Eid. Normally, Fridays were a bit calmer, but that Friday was different. The energy in the air was different. A plan was set. People had to be at Gulakule Faskandu by the time the people finished their Jummah prayers. Gulakule Faskandu, behind the army headquarters back then in front of the royal palace, is now the marbled area of the Islamic Center. It was a critical point in their mission. The clock was ticking, and nothing would ever be the same. As the Jummah prayers ended, a loud noise shattered the silence outside. The people in Hukurumiski looked around. They were confused, not knowing what was happening. It was coming from Gulakule Faskandu. People started running towards the Gulakule Faskandu. The soldiers there didn't stop anyone from approaching, and because Amin Didi was out of town, his cousin Ibrahim Didi, the Wazirul Dakhiliya or the Home Minister, was in charge of the government. He too stood there watching. He also did nothing. The crowd grew more agitated. They began calling for the removal of Amin Didi, claiming he was against Islam, that he was cruel, and that the people of the Maldives couldn't trust him any longer. They no longer wanted a republic. They wanted the presidency to be handed over to Ibrahim Mohamed Didi of Velanage Isla. By around 3 p.m., Ibrahim Mohamed Didi made his way to Amin Didi's wife, Fatma Said. He told her that the people had requested him to remove Amin Didi from presidency. It was now his responsibility to act, and he had just come to inform her of what was happening. The following Saturday, Ibrahim Famladeri Kilege and Ibrahim Mohamed Didi formed the Ingilabi Committee, also known as the Revolution Committee. On the 26th of August, 5 days after the chaos, Amin Didi sat in the Maldivian representative's office in Sri Lanka, anxiously waiting for news from his home. Over the past few days, he had sent countless messages to various people, but no one had replied to him. His nerves were on edge as the minutes ticked by. Finally, a message arrived from Mali. This was from Ibrahim Didi, the Home Minister. The message read, "Deeply regret to inform you a great part of the general public is strongly protesting regarding the various hardships they are undergoing. The mass protest was sudden and uncontrollable. Would urgently request your immediate return to Mali." Amin Didi quickly replied, "Please inform the general public that I am returning to Mali by the hyacinth as soon as possible, and their hardships would be carefully gone through and everything would be done to them. This notice should be put up at all the yards." He finally arrived in Mali aboard a British Royal Air Force RAF seaplane. The North Harbour was filled with people like never before. A large crowd gathered at the port, their faces uncertain and tense. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation, but it was unclear whether they had gathered to welcome him or to demand something more. Ibrahim Didi led the delegation that awaited Amin Didi's arrival. When Amin Didi got off from the seaplane, he was immediately escorted to a small sea ferry. As Amin Didi handed his bag to one of the crew members, they were advised not to return it to him, suspecting he might be carrying a weapon. Despite Amin Didi's insistence that he had no intention of causing harm, his protests fell on deaf ears. Ibrahim Didi explained that they were heading to Dhoonidhoo for Amin Didi's safety. But Amin Didi believed that if he could just speak to the people, even for 5 minutes, he could resolve the situation. But after about 30 minutes, they reached Dhoonidhoo. Life in Dhoonidhoo was rather lonely and difficult for Amin Didi. He lived a sad, routine life. His days were filled with prayer, fasting, and reading the Quran. Amin Didi and his daughter Amina shared a deep bond, and her marriage only deepened his sense of separation from his family. Amin Didi's daughter Amina got married while he was in Dhoonidhoo. Amin Didi had longed to be there with her on her special day, but the Revolution Committee denied him that right. In his sorrow, he wrote a heartfelt letter to her, pouring out everything he had ever wanted to say. And this letter became one of the most famous writings in Maldivian literature. Amin Didi's wife Fatma Said also longed to see him, but the committee repeatedly denied her requests, keeping them apart. 4 months after his imprisonment in Dhoonidhoo, secret letters were exchanged between him and Ibrahim Hilmi Didi, discussing a plan to end the revolutionary government and restore the monarchy. The plan involved Ibrahim Hilmi becoming the king and Amin Didi assuming the role of prime minister. One night, in a desperate attempt to rally support, Amin Didi tried to win the loyalty of the armed forces. He put on a military shirt, hoping to blend in and gain the trust of those who might help him reclaim Male. But his luck was against him. The commander he trusted most was away that night. When Ibrahim Didi heard about this, he quickly gathered people to stand against Amin Didi's plans. He had no choice. If Ibrahim Hilmi took the throne and made Amin Didi the prime minister, it would be the end of him and his government. The crowd, consumed by anger, chased after Amin Didi. They cornered him, shoved, and beat him while he was still handcuffed. Unable to defend himself, Amin Didi endured the blows to his face and head. He kept his eyes open, but not once did he meet anyone's gaze. He knew no one would offer him help. After the brutal attack, they dragged Amin Didi onto a small boat. Stripped of his dignity, he lay there exposed and broken. As the mob's rage faded, someone attempted to cover him, but he remained motionless. His body was too weak to resist or accept the kindness. By morning, the boat was smeared with blood. Flies swarmed around him, drawn to the dried blood on his skin. The sun rose mercilessly, its heat pressuring down, but he had no strength left to move or to even brush the flies away. By 11 a.m. that day, Amin Didi was taken to Bodubanderige for questioning. As the trial unfolded, Judge Abdul Qayyum Sidi delivered the verdict. It was clear from Amin Didi's confession and the evidence presented that Mohamed Ameen Didi, Ibrahim Hilmi, and Shamsuddin Hilmi, Amina's husband, were guilty of conspiring against the state, and Amin Didi was taken back to Dhoonidhoo. His health continued to worsen there. His body was failing him, and even the basic tasks like eating became almost impossible. To hide the sound of his cries from others around, he would drag the chains across the ground, the clinking noise muffling his sobs. Suffering from diabetes and without proper medical care, his condition worsened further. And when he was not able to take the increasing discomfort, he was taken to Vihamanapushe, and the state removed his chain upon his request, and that did offer him a small sense of relief for the time being. But his thoughts remained consumed by his family. He couldn't stop thinking about his little sister Mariam Amin, his daughter Amina. One day, Ibrahim Didi received a message from Amin Didi, a letter written with great difficulty. It conveyed Amin Didi's desperate desire to see his wife, his sister, and his daughter one last time. Ibrahim, moved by the heartfelt request, was torn. As Amin Didi's cousin, he felt the weight of his family bond, but he lacked the courage to meet Amin Didi's family directly. He couldn't bring himself to face them. Upon learning about Amin Didi's situation, a foreign doctor from the government hospital was dispatched to assess the situation. The doctor, after evaluating Amin Didi, returned to Male and he met with Amina, and he shared that Amin Didi was in a critical state and he could pass away any moment now. That midnight, Amin Didi took his final breath. The first president of the Maldives passed away, all alone in the hands of those who had wronged him. He died without the comfort of his loved ones, without a chance to say goodbye. When his daughter Amina was finally given the opportunity to see her father, she couldn't recognize the man before her. His face was swollen, dark and purple from the brutal treatment he had endured. She searched for any trace of the loving face she had once known, but it was lost. The very people who had caused his suffering carried his body away for burial in the very first island he had set foot outside of Male. The following morning, a parcel arrived at Amin Didi's family home. Mariam Didi, his sister, opened it only to be met with horrifying sight of a shirt and a towel soaked in her brother's blood. The act was a chilling reminder of the cruelty they had gone through, the heartless disregard of their family's suffering. How cruel! Oh, how unbearably cruel! Amin Didi's story always brings tears to my eyes. I see Amin Didi as a visionary leader, somebody who was far ahead of his time. Perhaps the country wasn't ready for such a drastic change. Maybe, just, maybe the people weren't ready for it. But then I can't help but ask, would people really murder their president over a tobacco ban? Or was it something much darker that's hidden beneath the surface? I suppose we may never truly know, I guess. Yeah, but that's the story of Mohamed Ameen Didi, the first president of the Maldives. Until we are able to unfold another tale beyond the sunny side, this is me, Tata, signing off. Stay safe and bye-bye.